Good day, everyone. I am Matt Harrison, and you are listening to the Geary Cast, the Malaga fan podcast for all the Gearys out there, and as part of the Sports Social Podcast Network. As the city of Malaga prepared for Feria, Malaga Club de Football prepared to see how it would fare against Ferrol in the north of Galicia. There was no Feria-like fiesta for Malaga in Ferrol, but they did come away from Estadio da Malata with a good point in a 2-2 draw, which from about the 45th minute onwards did live up to the Hypermotion sponsor name of La Liga Hypermotion, because of course we were back in the La Liga Hypermotion, although I suppose it's the first time we've been there, but it's the second tier of Spanish football after our year down the well. And speaking of wells, I'm joined by two people who are always a well of knowledge when it comes to Malaga Club de Football. It's my GearyCast co-hosts, Nick Bell and Alex Ashmore. I will come to you first, Nick, who is on the Costa del Sol still, but is unfortunately about to leave, I believe. So how are you, Nick?
I am. I'm in that final 24 hours before I get back on a plane to Old Blighty, which I believe is pissing down with rain still. So, yeah, I'll be very sad tomorrow, but I'm going to enjoy this last 24 hours, go to the pool, drink some beers, and record a podcast, yeah, much to my wife's dismay, and go out for some nice tapa for tea. So, yeah, no, it's all good. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm still in Galicia. I am in Ourense, which I believe are a team that's just been promoted to the top tier of the well. I say the city's team has been promoted to the top tier of the well. Yeah, lots of bridges, nice old town. But tomorrow I am heading to the big city and the bright lights of Madrid, where I'll be meeting up with the one and only Alex Ashmore. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's probably just as hot, maybe even hotter in Ourense than Madrid, but it's cooled down here. It's only about, I think it's sort of max 35 nowadays. It's cooling down. It's not 40.
We're about 30 up here, I think, in Galicia, which for Galicia is very warm and quite inland. We should perhaps, caveat this episode early doors and say, anything Alex says in this podcast, we're not sure of the credibility of it, because we have seen him on the European football coverage, which he is part of in, is it Nigeria and Ghana? I think
yes, Ghana.
It's his prediction for Real Mallorca against Real Madrid, which was Real Mallorca 0, Real Madrid 3, which didn't quite work out, Alex, but I think that's fair enough, to be fair. I don't think anyone saw that 1-1 draw coming, but still, why don't you ever put a Dicky bow on for the Geary Cast?
I can do. Maybe for our end of season awards, I'll get all dressed up.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I don't want to extend it to this podcast, but when we meet up tomorrow, I do have a lot of questions. I want to know how this came about, and have they gone, oh, this guy's got quite a well-spoken English accent, let's go with a Dicky bow gimmick. At the moment, the three of us are all in Spain, and obviously I was at the Racing Ferrol Malaga game. You guys would have been able to watch it because you are within Spain, but there are still issues ongoing with being able to watch Malaga games and any Segunda games outside of Spain. And obviously, I guess we're going to be talking more towards our British demographic here. Nick, again, because I was at the game, I sort of lost track of what was going on in regards of this a little bit. What was my understanding is like most of our followers went for betting sites more than anything.
Yeah, so there appeared to be like two avenues you could go down. Bet365 has it on their app, but if you watch it on a laptop or on your phone, I think it sticks to quite a small screen, so you don't get that experience that you usually would have with La Liga Plus, or certainly that we had with FEF TV last season. Or the other alternative, much to I'm sure Javier Tebas's dismay, is going down the piracy route. A lot of people turn into illegal streams. which we've got to find a way. It's difficult though, because I think the thing that's numbing me the most is it's just the mindlessness of it. There's an opportunity here, and I said on Twitter, if there's not thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who would subscribe to watch this like we did last season, it's a win-win. I was talking to Frederick on Twitter earlier, and he has a massive involvement with Malaga Norega, and he says he kind of put it out there and said, well, I don't know how I'm going to be able to help run this Pena, or be part of it, or feel part of Malaga without being able to watch the games. And there'll be thousands of people who are in the same sort of situation where they're thinking, well, I've put years into this club, supporting this club. Let's call a spade, cash as well, ticket prices, flights, hotels, merchandise. And all of a sudden you're completely ostracized from it. And that's going to be my issue when I get home there tomorrow. I'm looking forward to the game against Mirandés on the weekend. How am I going to even watch it? How am I going to tune in and follow the club that I've just spent, 150 euros on? Oh, actually, tell a lie. 200 euros on 3 kits, one for Ruby though, in their club shop, and I can't even watch them on the telly. It's bizarre.
Yeah, and my understanding, like reading through stuff today, is there's nothing really on the horizon. I sort of see like sort of comments suggesting watch this space and stuff, but that space should have been filled before the season started almost. There's and like you said, obviously we are a Malaga international podcast, I guess, and we can see these issues, but we're just one club. There's I think we've said, and it's been well advertised across social media and in the press, that this is like the sort of, the all-star Segunda division. This is the season they should be throwing everything at, because, you've got Depor as well. And I can imagine Castellón have quite a decent international following with their sort of links to, their American ownership, and, Almeria. And there's lots of big clubs in this league. Alex, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? Because obviously you're like me. You're in Spain, so it's less of an issue for us. But still, I don't want to see my fellow Malaguistas abroad not being able to watch the games.
No, it's an absolute shambles, and whoever's made that decision needs to give themselves a good hard look in the mirror and think, what on earth are they doing? It's obviously a clear lack of care towards the second division from La Liga. I guess the money is from the top division, but that doesn't mean you can just ignore the second division. And like we've talked about, there are some massive teams in that division, and they would make a bit of money from an online subscription service. And yeah, it just feels like, and we've seen this before with multiple decisions that La Liga has taken and multiple decisions that they choose not to take, that they don't really care about the fans. It's just about, what's easiest and what works best for them. And this is another example of it.
I'm trying to wrap my head around it though. Like, what is the thought process behind having the last 5 seasons, I think, having this La Liga Sports TV or La Liga Plus app and showing them there for free, and then all of a sudden just to pull that rug? Again, I don't know if it's to do maybe with what they are doing with the La Liga rights in general in Spain. So my interpretation is, especially for Hypermotion, it is you can watch it everywhere, whether it's Movistar, Goal, Amazon Prime, DAZN, Orange.
Well, I went for breakfast this morning in a bar in sort of the old town of Orense, and they had obviously La Liga TV hadn't quite sort of, I don't think they show anything before midday, but the schedule is going across the screen, and they are showing everything on La Liga TV here, and I don't understand why that can't just be switched over to other European broadcasters that have La Liga, because obviously as well, like La Liga, everyone says La Liga and they mean the top flight, but technically La Liga is both leagues, so it falls under that umbrella. And I believe that if they have the rights to, let's say, the top flight, it comes as a package, and you get the Segunda, and obviously there's resources that need to be thrown at that to make it work, and logistics, but still, like there's so many big clubs in there, and it does feed into that big league, and especially even more so, like not even just the big clubs. Obviously, we weren't a part of it last year, but watching on from afar down the well, like it was a crazy exciting season last year. Like what an advert! Like how close it was at the top, and from top to bottom. And then to get these teams in, and it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I guess like we again, so to carry on in a quite negative light, I guess we should perhaps mention match tickets for Malaga for people who actually want to go to La Rosaleda and watch a game. About 2 or 3 hours before we recorded, it was finally announced the sort of ticket news for our game against Mirandes, and there's not a lot of tickets because there are so many season ticket holders. I'll let you guys chip in here because I only read it over quickly, but my understanding is you cannot get a ticket unless you applied for a season ticket and were put on the waiting list, or I believe like yourself, Nick, you have signed up for the Carne membership.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. But then also the ticket prices, oh God, they have raised those ticket prices a lot.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a bit of a double slap from the club this week. Or obviously, I know the TV deal is not the club's fault, but like then you think, well, at least I can go out and watch them, and all of a sudden it's right. Well, we're giving priority to those people who applied for a season ticket but didn't get one in the draw, which again, I don't quite understand that, because then they're not actually putting any money in. I don't believe you applied for it, but I don't think it cost you anything to be in the raffle.
No.
So that then priorities you above Joe Blogs in the street. But obviously, then there's the membership, which I only got that the other day just so I can potentially go to some away games this season. That also gives you priority, but that costs you €30. So again,
yes. I was going to ask how much it costs because I just realised I didn't know. So yeah, €30 is.
Yeah. So $29.99 on that front. But like again, I've now got the same opportunity. I'm going up against a few thousand people, and that's me. Remember all the other people who haven't got that membership right now, who I would definitely recommend getting it if you can next time you visit, or whether you can get it online. I don't know. But tickets are going to be few and far between. It will always say sold out for every home game, I reckon, but it won't be. There'll be a lot of people with season tickets who probably don't show up. So it's going to make it hard to visit Malaga and watch them at La Rosaleda as well this season.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of, and I think I've sort of semi-joked about it in our WhatsApp groups, but like I've had people DM me already and asking about tickets and things like that, and I've just had to sort of shrug my shoulders and say I just don't know. Whereas usually I'd be quite, it's easy. Like Malaga's online ticket thing is really good, so don't worry. And now I'm just like, I've just had to shrug my shoulders and say, see closer to whatever game you want to go to, and you're going to have to hunt out a season ticket holder.
Put it this way, Matt. Obviously, we all sit in 538, sat behind the Giri flag with the Giri Army. At this moment in time, you can't buy a ticket in that block for Mirandes game. You can get in 540, that's fine. But again, tickets are few and far between, even when I've looked. But the fact that block, which is usually maybe 60, 70% full, is sold out now for the entire season. You're going to have to just pick somewhere else to sit if you can get a ticket. So,
I think I saw when I looked very quickly and seeing like lots of screenshots, the cheapest ticket was about 27, 28, and there's not many of those at all. And a lot of tickets were, I think the highest I saw was 63, but I'm not sure if they climbed even higher than that in other parts. But yeah,
it's like Alex said in our WhatsApp group. It's fucking ridiculous. Like I get that. Success breeds this kind of thing, and we should be. We're paying a more premium because we're looking at a more premium product. But again, at the same time, you've also got 26,500 season tickets holders. So why do you then have to do the rest of them at a much more premium, updated price? I think to be honest, I think they've absolutely bolstered up with the season ticket thing, massively so. Like I think the cap on it is far too high. I think they should have lowered it. We know for a fact that if Malaga start to struggle this season, they're not going to be able to fill it, but they're not going to be able to sell those tickets because they'll just be empty seats. So, it's a perfect storm.
They are sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place a bit, isn't it? Because I suppose there's so much demand for season tickets that if, I don't know, say they capped it at 22, 23,000, people would be a bit like, oh, well, there's still space. But yeah, I get.
Well, that's it. But for season tickets, only went up by 10% or something like that, didn't it? It didn't go up by much. But then regular tickets, which they probably do get the most churn through on a season-by-season basis, have gone up by double, by 50%, 60% even in some cases. They're cutting the nose off to spite the face. Do you know what I mean? Like, do one or the other. That's it for me. You can't do both. You can't have then 4,000 spare tickets and do them at double the price compared to, I think Paul Hennihan told me that basically he only has to go to 3 games now and his season ticket paid for.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that. That was a good point. Is at least it's even, it's not good. Alex, I don't know if you want to chip in on anything to do with match tickets.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's a shambles. It's obviously one of those instances where they've gone, we want to make the most money as possible. We're not going to think about the fans. We just want to make profit and revenue. And they've not thought about the bigger picture. And it will, as I said in the WhatsApp group, it will disenfranchise quite a few people. It will discourage people from coming over. I think I saw Wayne in the GearyCast Telegram saying, he's glad that he got over last season with his kid to watch a game, because this season it might be hard. And, for those living in the UK, they're already spending, 200, 300 quid on flights and hotels and apartments and whatnot. And then ask for 50, 60 euros for a ticket. I can go and watch Atletico Madrid for 30 euros and there's a ticket available for most home league games. Atletico Madrid, they're arguably the third biggest team in Spain. So for Malaga to charge 60 euros for a ticket, I agree with what Nick said. Yes, we are playing at a higher level, but you can't be charging 60 euros for a ticket. No. It's ridiculous.
The jump's too big. If you could put your finger on it and say, well, I'll tell you what, there's a new owner in charge and they've signed bloody ex-player who used to play for that and scores 40 goals a season. I can understand you've got a product there that actually is valued at 60 euros a ticket. But let's call a spade a spade. We've made our 5th sign of the summer today. Some lad who was working in Australia as a carpenter not too long ago, may I add, not to, jump too much ahead. A couple of loan players and a couple of, older heads. It's not Mbappe to Real Madrid, is it? You know what I mean? And it's already coming across from myself now. I'm usually quite optimistic about Malaga, and I get the piss taken out of me for it. I'm already dismayed, and we've only had 1 game. And it's not even about the football game itself. It's about what's going on around the club. And it feels like we're cash cows all of a sudden, or certainly the fans that are going into the stadium are cash cows, because if they're paying for those tickets, they're buying the shirts. The shirts are going up in price, by the way. It's more and more and more and more at a time when people just don't necessarily have the money either. Let's not forget.
It's, to put it in context, last season I paid 87 euros and 50 cents to watch Atletico Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund in the first leg of a quarter-final of the Champions League. I could be paying 60 euros to watch Malaga play Albacete in the 2nd division of Spanish football. Yeah. Where's the logic there?
Yeah, it's not good. And like you said, it's sort of the double whammy of the lack of ability to, or the inability to watch on TV outside of Spain, and these ticket prices this week has been it's been a double hammer blow, we'll say. But I'm sure we'll address these issues over the coming weeks, and hopefully these issues are resolved some way, especially the TV part. But you've already touched upon it briefly, Nick. Let's talk about fairly breaking news. It happened a couple of hours before we've pressed record here. Sergio Castel has signed for Malaga. We sort of felt like we needed another striker to back up our new boy, Rocco. 29-year-old, been playing out in Cyprus for the past season or so. Like you said, Nick, he was out in Australia carpenting and got signed up by, I think they're called Bendigo City, which I think is a great name. He's had a good sort of world tour of football, it seems. I think he's been out in India as well, and I think maybe Thailand. How do we feel about this signing, Nick?
Well, it's good that we are fortifying striking reinforcements. It's good to motivate our team going into the game against Mirandes with the signing. Right? There's loads of castle puns we can do with this player for all season, so I'm excited about that. He seems to have a decent pedigree. Don't get me wrong, look back beyond his Cyprus days, and he had a bit of a tough time in Segunda with Ibiza in their relegation season. He then went to Burgos as well. Didn't score there, but he has scored a few goals wherever he's been. I think it was 13 last season. So if you get the right Cassell, then hopefully he can be a good attribute. But again, we're trying to replace a 20-goal striker who is now scoring for Braga week in, week out with journeymen and people who have shady goal-scoring records.
Yeah. Alex, I'm going to ask you, forgive the pun coming here, what are your thoughts on Castell?
I like it. Yeah, to be brutally honest, very uninspiring. I'm very willing to be, and I want to be proven wrong. But you talk about, Nick's mentioned it there, the goal scoring record. In his professional career, he scored 58 goals in 188 games. He's played, like we said, Ibiza, San Sebastián de los Reyes. He's played in Cyprus, played in India, Burgos, a few lower league sides. It doesn't really inspire me. And yes, I know we don't have the financial capabilities to buy, 30 goals a season strikers, but it definitely feels like we can be doing a lot better. I do want
£6 a ticket. We might soon have the finances to fucking back
exactly, yeah. Give it till November, and we'll be signing Mbappe on loan until the end of the season. No, it feels very uninspiring. It feels very, I don't know. For me, when I look at that signing, I see Loren looking at the transfer market and him going, "Oh, this guy played in Spain. He's a free agent. Well, let's give it a go." There doesn't seem to be any, it's not like, I'm sure there are better players out there. Obviously, I'm not a scout, so I don't know, but I'm sure there are players out there who we could get on loan, who are free transfers, who have that goal scoring experience at maybe Primera level or Segunda level, that are looking for a side that are better than Sergio Castel. They've looked at a list and he was number 3 on the list, and they've gone, yeah, all right.
I'll caveat it because obviously there's two sides to this. I'll start with the positive first. He likes to play off a striker, so it gives us another option in to play behind either Dioni or Rocco Baccarin. And he loves a pop from distance as well. That's my understanding. He's got a foot like a traction engine, and he loves to have a pop from distance, which, if we take Kevin's goal from this week and there's anything to go by, we want to see more of that. The downside, I'll say to this, is that he's turned us down once already this summer in favour of going to Portugal. That deal fell through, and then all of a sudden he was being offered back round again, and then all of a sudden he settled on Malaga. So it's kind of like you could have come here straight away. You could have been involved in pre-season. You could have got yourself in the group a bit more, but you decided that as soon as your Portugal option fell through, you were going to come to Malaga instead as your second option, and that is a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. But I'm trying to find positivity. I'm trying to find it.
No, I'm not absolutely buzzing about the signing, but I think there's, I don't really remember seeing him play. I must have seen him play, but I think there's something there. I'm not like bouncing off the walls with excitement about it either. Just quickly, just in regards to transfers, we should perhaps mention, again, I actually meant to double check this. Andres Caro has just gone. Yeah, he's just left. Or is he still...
mutual termination?
Yeah, mutual termination. And I believe something is being negotiated quite similar with Juan Hernandez, or we're trying to sell him off. It's fair to say it never really worked out for him last year. He started the first game of last year away to Castellon. He scored that really good volley against Atleti B, but I think we said, what game was it, Nick? In we were at where I said when he came off the bench, or I wanted him to come off the bench, he did come off the bench, didn't he? He almost scored. And I said, I just want to have an opinion about Juan Hernandez. And I think that sums it up, because I still don't.
Yeah, like any squatter, they are hard to get rid of, and like you say, he's not, showing himself to be a stellar player for people to want to take a punt on him. So, but as soon as it does happen, it creates space in the squad. So again, could we see another transfer coming in before the end of the window, which I think is the 31st?
I've read that Yanis Ramani is not training with Eibar's first team at the moment. So,
Ramani, I think he said they were looking to announce him potentially this week. But again, it seems like a very light rumour, similar to Sammy Castillo. Castillo? Or Castillejo, that's the one. And, as I said before we start recording, these things don't come from nowhere. And there's been a lot of rumour and conjecture on Twitter this week about him signing and it being the big one, and that the only obstacle is La Liga itself, because they've got that rule where you can't earn half your salary of where you were previously. So if he buys himself out of Valencia, then he could come move to Malaga. But I think it's pie in the sky. But then the old prick tease decided to put a little Instagram post on Saturday watching Malaga against Club de Ferrol, and all of a sudden we're like, get him on board. Get Chris to get that video out again that we made for him. Wheel that back out.
Yeah, so let's start going towards Malaga's match this weekend. Just quickly, obviously the Segunda and the top flight have started now. Did anything else jump out at you this weekend? Because I've got a particular Malaga-related highlight. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to mention that you enjoyed at the start of this first jornada.
I mean, there were some quite interesting results around the grounds. I think, I wasn't expecting some of them, entertaining football by the looks of it. Depor getting beat by Real Oviedo, Almeria drawing 2-2, Granada getting beat by Albacete on the opening day. Some quite entertaining. And Real Zaragoza thumping Cadiz 4-0.
Yeah. We should say as well, before we talk about the Malaga game, we were the only newly promoted team to get a point, because the others lost. Apparently they played quite well from what I gathered, but my Malaga-related shout-out was going to be, I don't know if you saw Leganés playing at Osasuna, and they seemed to play really well, but in goals for them was Juan Soriano, and I was quite happy that La Liga shared, I don't know if you've seen his wonder save from Brian Zaragoza, but he also scored a very, very unfortunate own goal, where one of those ones where the ball hits the post and bounces into the goalie and then goes in. But he looked very good, looked to have a very good debut. I really liked Juan Soriano. We've done very good with our goalies in our last three goalies, because I know we're all big fans of Ruben Yanez as well. But it was really cool to see Juan Soriano in the top flight. I think Nick's already touched upon it. It's not Spain, but Roberto scoring 2 goals in 3 days for Braga, one in the Europa League qualifying against Servette, and then scoring the winning goal against Boavista. I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention, Nick.
I think the only one that I clocked on is, obviously we had a really fancy graphic put up a couple of weeks ago in the season preview, which stated who we think would get relegated. And I think with the exception of Cartagena, everyone else who we propped to get relegated won. So I think it says more about our analysis on that. But certainly some great results for, Mirandés and Eldense and Albacete, who, we were all sort of like looking like they were going to go down from our perspective. Obviously, there's still time.
One for the Geary I saw as well, just to add, Ollie McBurney got offered a bottle of Aftersun in exchange for his shirt after the last 2-2 draw.
He sort of scored, didn't he? But it was rightly given as an own goal, but he was the one that sort of put the pressure on, and the commentators were saying he'd scored and he'd celebrated. But as a Swansea fan, I love Ollie McBurney, so definitely be following him. Let's go into the game against Ferrol, then I'll just quickly say I did record a Vamos episode. I think it's going to be released after this podcast, so definitely go and check it out. I am not very kind about the town or the city of Ferrol. It's not a pretty place, but what I will say, and I'm pretty sure I do say it on the Vamos episode, is like the city is really in love with their football team. Everywhere we went, everyone was wearing the green shirt, and lots of different green shirts as well. There's lots of retro ones, lots of people wearing the new Adidas shirt. But as we talked about on the podcast, the preview podcast, they do have that glorious Lotto shirt from last season, and most people still seem to be favouring that because it is beautiful. Yeah, and everyone was really friendly. It was quite interesting. A couple of people came up to me and our friend of the podcast, Christian Makowski, saying, "Oh, you guys are going to go up this year, aren't you?" And we were like, "Well, probably not." And they were like, "Yeah, you've sold 26,000 season tickets." That seemed to be the way, and that 3 times that happened, by the way, because they all wanted to come chat to us. So that was quite interesting. But yeah, I'll save the rest of Ferrol discourse for the Vamos episode. Great ground, actually. I'll finish with that. The ground was superb. It looked like a proper throwback from the outside, but which I loved. And then when we were in there, it was really cool. I think I used the phrase on Vamos, it looks like a bull ring. But let's go to the starting 11. As I had no insight, it was merely a vibe that I thought Aaron would start Aaron Ochoa Maloney, and he did. Rocco, our new signing, was up front, and Juanpe was brought in the midfield, and I should say Pastor was played at centre-back ahead of perhaps Einar. Alex, was there any sort of surprises in that starting 11?
No, I mean, other than perhaps Aaron Ochoa Maloney, I know Peter has favoured starting the youngsters occasionally. I perhaps didn't expect it in the first game of the season, but I like to see it. I like to see the ambition and the, I guess, fearlessness in a way, perhaps to, not be afraid to, if you think it's going to work, start it. It doesn't matter how old he is. And we've obviously seen glimpses of what he can do. So, yeah, I think generally quite happy with the starting 11. It was good to see some of the new lads, Alex Pastor, Rocco Baturina, as you said, get them started. And I think that's going to be the key for the new signing, is the more game time they can get in these early games, the more they can gel with the rest of the squad and the more that they can start clicking.
Yeah, Nick, was there any sort of surprise inclusions or, non-starters for you?
I thought the Juanpe involvement was interesting from the get-go. The player that looked like he was very much written off towards the end of the last season. So for him to go in ahead of, say, a Sangali or a Dani Lorenzo was an interesting choice. I know Luis Mi was out injured, so I would imagine that he would have started there if he was available. And I thought they would let Lebete rip. This is an exciting young player. I understand that La Rubia has had a decent pre-season, but I thought maybe he'd sit in a 10 rather than Aaron Shaw Maloney. But, Lebete had to make do with a place on the bench. But, we're still early days of the season. As Alex said, we'll wait to see who clicks, who works out best. And, you're not going to find that out in Ferrol. You're going to find that out in 5, 6, 7 games that you find your best starting 11.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with what you said. I suppose I did think Lebete would start, and I wasn't sure if it'd be for Kevin or La Rubia. But the surprise for me was Juanpe ahead of Sangali, because I think at the end of last year, Pellicer seemed to be feeding Sangali a few more minutes, because obviously he had quite a lot of injuries last year, as did Juanpe, to be fair. But I got the impression that Pellicer preferred Sangali. I think it's fair to say, everyone on this podcast, I think I'm right in saying, preferred Sangali, and I think the fans sort of have a bit of a soft spot for him. So I was surprised to see Juanpe there, but yes, fair to say there'll be a little bit more Juanpe chat coming up, I think. I'll just go straight into it. What did you make of Malaga's first half performance, Alex?
I thought good feels wrong. Yeah, it was all right. It was all right. It wasn't, I wasn't blown away.
Strong.
Say again, sorry.
I think even all right's quite strong, to be honest.
Yeah, it felt sort of, obviously it's the new season. It's always the case. We've seen it. Even the best teams struggle on the first day. Even when you've got some of the best players in the world, sometimes that opening day, it's the first game back. You're just getting back used to that competitive level and to have that edge again. So, yeah, I think it wasn't the worst start. It definitely wasn't the best start. And to be honest, I think that goal, we'll come on to it, but the goal kind of felt like it sort of sparked us into life a little bit. We felt a bit flat before then. And, I think the chances that we created in the first half were pretty lackluster if they, from the few that we did create. So, yeah, I think flat's probably the best way to describe that first half.
Yeah, I think I said when we were in the ground, I thought we actually started the game quite well. I thought sort of like the first, well, it was funny because I was like, oh, we started this game really well. And then I said, oh, but Ferrol are finding their way into it. And I looked up at the time and it'd been 4 minutes. So I think we started really good for 4 minutes. And yeah, I tell you what, the one thing being in the ground, I wasn't aware of this till after the game, that they'd only lost 2 home games last season. And you could really sense that. Their players were quite a lot of the time doing, I know it's a bit cliche, they're doing the hands up, trying to get the crowd going. But they did seem to really feed off each other, the crowd and the players, which was, yeah.
I think it's fair to say that Ferrol is absolutely 100% unequivocally the Spanish version of going to Stoke on a Tuesday night. Very much so. I would have that vibes from what I saw from your videos, Matt.
Yeah, they were, and again, their fans were, they were quite quiet to start with. I think I mentioned it in the Vamos episode, so I don't want to spoil it too much. But their hymno, I love their hymno, but it's not as, I don't know, sort of rousing as a lot of hymnos in Spain. It's quite poppy. It was really good fun, which is not what I associated with that town. What did you make of our first half performance in general, Nick?
I thought it was to be expected, to be fair. I think if we go into this league, assuming that we're going to walk it from the get-go, then we're being naive. We've got to warm up to it. We looked a yard off the pace to begin with. They were quicker, they were stronger players than us. And you've got to learn quickly from that about how to, first of all, deal with it, but also how to adapt to it. So I wasn't disappointed, but I wasn't enamored with it. It's exactly the way I thought it was going to go. We're in a higher division, and this is what we should be. It's what happens.
Yeah, perhaps I'll just highlight 2 of our new signings, because obviously we started with Rocco up front, who I thought was, I think I said this in the Vamos episode, was doing a good sort of tribute version of Roberto running about, but not quite as good as the real thing. But I do like him. He looks like he's busy, and I was surprised he played the 90 minutes in the end, because he did look absolutely knackered by about the 70th minute. So I'm surprised he made it on. I really like the look of Pastore, though. He got booked quite fairly early, but he looks really good at bringing the ball out from the back. I've not looked at the stats. I know we had more possession than them, which I know doesn't really mean anything, but he seems to be on the ball more than any of our players in the first half. And I think there's a really good player there. Be interesting as well. And again, you guys, I'll open up if you want to comment on those 2 players. But in my notes before I made the day after the game ready for this podcast, I did sort of put that my worry was we looked a bit lightweight, and it was quite interesting because I listened to the Spanish Segunda show this morning, and Liam made the same point. So I don't know, Alex, do you feel we are a bit lightweight, or is that something we've just got to lean into? Because it's, we weren't exactly heavyweights last year in the league.
Do you mean defensively or just generally across the park?
Generally, I guess, the one outlier, I guess, is Rocco, who is definitely not lightweight. Seeing him in person, he is huge. And obviously Juanpe is quite a big presence as well. But I guess the 3 behind Rocco of Kevin, Aaron and La Rubia, all good players, but, not much grit.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, now when I look at the squad, I think solid is probably a good way to describe most of the players in that squad. I look at that back line, Victor Garcia, I really like him. I think he's, been one of our best players since he joined. Nelson Monte has his days where he can be quite poor, but generally I think he's quite a good defender. Joaquin Gabilondo, maybe not, doesn't set the world alight, but I think he's a solid defender. We obviously know the talent that Kevin and David Larrubia have. Juanpe, I think, is a solid midfielder. Manu Molina, I know, we've sung his praises, but also criticised him quite a fair bit. So, yeah, I think solid. I look at the players that we have injured at the moment that hopefully will be coming back with the likes of Ramon and Haitam. Once they're back, I feel like we can start to show a little bit more of the style of football that we want to play. Because I think at the moment, we feel like, defensively, I feel like we're solid, but I feel like we lack that attacking flair going forward a little bit. And once those two come back, I feel like we'll see a lot of improvement.
Yeah, I agree. Like in regards of like style of play, Haitam and Ramon coming in will definitely heighten our sort of football. But I guess, Nick, would you say that even those two coming in, we still lack? I don't know. Like, I guess we've been away a year now, but that sort of Escassi warrior mentality, I don't know, but.
Well, I think we have them. I think, like you say, when you look at Luismi when he comes back in, you've got Einar on the bench. Dare I say, you play to your strength, and our strength isn't going to be strength. Do you know what I mean? And I think with Rocco, and I actually quite enjoyed watching him on Saturday. I think he obviously, as you said, Matt, puts in the same kind of effort, but I think he'll be a completely different dynamic for us. That player who can hold up the ball and feed into Kevin, Aaron Ochoa, Larrubia, Haitam, whoever it may be. I think we'll see a lot more interaction, especially in goals, from those wing players this season. And for me, as long as you're solid at the back and you've got someone who can do that up front, what happens in the middle, I think we've got the players that can keep the ball. I think we can beat that possession-based side with these kind of players. So I wouldn't necessarily agree with Liam that we're light. I think we are playing to our own strengths.
Yeah, I agree totally, and I think that's what we did last year. And even though I don't know if we're going to say we're lightweight, we still kept winning games and dominating games. And I agree with you with Rocco. I was going to mention that actually with Roberto last year, there was a lot of Roberto sort of winning the ball and then spinning and sprinting off towards goal and trying to play him in. Whereas I don't think that's going to be the case with Rocco. It's going to be him winning the ball and playing in like the trident behind him. And, I've been waiting all episode to bring it up. So let's just go to it. Kevin's goal. Oh, I should just caveat this where I was getting so, Christian can vouch for this. I was getting so angry with Kevin in the first half because I don't know if he came across on TV, but he was sort of like in front of us a lot, and his body language and his lack of running. And I was like, he kept sort of not running into space. And, we had this chat, me and Christian, and I was like, I said, something doesn't look right there. And then we just carried on chatting about Kevin, and he said, do you think anyone's bid for Kevin this summer? And we sort of said probably not. And then this is literally his conversations happening about a minute before the goal. And I said, I could imagine a Cypriot club coming in for Kevin. I said, I can picture Kevin in the Cypriot league. And then Christian said some things about him. And then when the ball rolled to Kevin and he cut inside, and I think I mentioned this on the Vamos episode, instead of me shouting, shoot, I start shouting, prove Mikowski wrong. Prove Mikowski wrong. And obviously he unleashes this shot, and I went, prove Mikowski wrong. I said, and I think I said, like, get her on a cap. Sodia, make America great again. Get a prove Mikowski wrong cap on. What a goal. And then, to be honest with you, in the stadium, it looked amazing, but it was at the other end of the ground to us. And it was only at half time when I saw it back, I realized like how far out it was and how hard he'd hit it. And fair play to him, because I've said this on the podcast a few times. For a guy that doesn't score like many goals and certainly not long ranges, I always say like the guy's got a really good shot on him. He always seems to have some bad luck with his shooting, like from there, because I always think he looks better at those sort of shots than a one-on-one. So I'm glad that it was unsavable. It would surprise me if we do a award show at the end of the season. That's not our goal of the season.
No, absolutely. I thought that with Kevin as well in this game, that he was quiet, but he looks, I don't know how you guys, and I'm sure, Matt, you've been paying very close attention to him this summer, but he looks stronger to me, which again, sometimes it's like wearing a new pair of boots. You've got to kind of like fit into your own body again, and it takes time.
He does look a different shape. Like you could just tell, you do sort of worry, or has he put on a bit of weight? But I think I did say this in the crowd. I said, no, I think he has beefed. He didn't look as rapid as he can be. I will say,
more of like a little Shaqiri shape, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. That's a good comparison, actually. I thought he was awful first half, like really bad until that goal. And I will say, in the second half, I thought he was excellent. For the sort of half hour he played, he looked like confident and he made all the right decisions. So I was still a little bit surprised when I think Luke put out the Biznaga of the match vote on our Twitter, and he was the one that got it. And I'll come on to why I was a bit surprised later. But yeah, I thought for half an hour in that game, he was excellent. And it started with this superb goal, Alex Ashmore.
Yeah, a fantastic goal. And like you said, I think come the end of the season, that will be in the conversation, if not our goal of the season, because it was a stunning strike. I think don't know if you guys have seen it. And if you haven't, for those listening, seen it, go on Twitter and find the video of the Spanish commentator, because I think he's as surprised as everyone else. It is just unbelievable. The way it curls into that top corner.
It doesn't
sort of,
Alex, it doesn't curl.
It's like it curls from where you watch it. The way it sort of, not floated, but the way it just, the keeper had no chance. And I think I agree with what you said. I felt like he was a bit inactive in the game. Generally, I would like to see more from him. I think we know the capability that he has. Going for, I think that was his only shot in general in the game. That wasn't off target or on target. That was his only shot. I'd like to see him dribble more, and I'd like to see him take on players more, put in more crosses, because I feel like him and Rocco could be a really good partnership. Him, whether that's cutting in from the left, like he did for the goal, or whether he's just putting in crosses to make the defenders' lives difficult. And it feels weird that I'm about to make this comparison, but I feel similar feelings with him as I do with Ardagula. I think he's not in terms of ability. They're worlds apart. Kevin's never going to be as good as Ardagula. But in terms of, like you said, he's sort of he's still maybe missing that physicality. But you feel like he does feel like he's slowly starting to get used to the style of football that's played at this level, and I feel like he's definitely getting better and better as the seasons go on.
Kevin just needs to focus on doing what he needs to do, and that is cutting inside on his right foot and shooting. That is what he can make himself a name for. He doesn't need to be herded out to the corner post to then do some step overs and trickery. It's not necessary. So, the more that we see of this, the more that we can see Rocco holding up the ball, feeding it onto the right boot of Kevin Medina, I think we'll probably see 8 out of 10 times he's going to score one of those. I think, just judging by this one goal, I might put my hat on this. I reckon Kevin's getting double figures this season.
Ooh.
Double figures.
God, I'm not even sure. I did initially propose an agenda for this podcast, which was solely based on Kevin's goal, but it wasn't greenlit, so we're gonna have to move on really quickly. And again, I think we talked about this in the Vamos episode, but I would say the thing that impressed me most about Malaga in this game is obviously I don't think we were great in that first half. I think Ferrol were the better team. And we all sort of said to each other, here we go. Sergio Pellicer is going to go, sit on the lead, try and nick this 1-0. But actually in the second half, I thought we were so much better and really positive and went for it. We went to try and go 2-0 up. And obviously, there was not great defending, so it ended up as 1-1. But I was really impressed with Pellicer's sort of attitude. That it did feel like, obviously, like he must have said something at half time to get them flying out of the blocks. Because I thought we were really good second half, which, technically we lost the second half 2-1, but I thought we were 100 times better, Nick.
Mm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it looks like the pragmatism that we saw from Pellicer last season sort of evaporated a little bit, and he sort of knew what was at stake. And, I don't want to say he's rejuvenated, but obviously we were talking last season about him maybe stepping away, maybe thinking he could take Malaga as far as he can go. I genuinely think he sees this season an opportunity to push on further, see what he can do, and go from there, basically. From my perspective as well, I think we started to take the game to Ferrol, but then they started to really grind on us a little bit. They started to really push for that equaliser, but unlike usual times when we'd go back into our shell, they then decided to go expansive. We tried to play on the counter, so we changed our tactics, which we never did last season.
No, especially when we went a goal up in the second half. And actually, like I sort of alluded to it a little bit in my intro, like I thought that first half was not a great game of football. This was a great advert for Segunda football second half. It was really end to end and open, and like you said, Malaga were pushed back, but then we went, go on, fuck it, we'll push them back. And it was really good game of football, I thought, Alex.
Yeah, no, I think to sort of piggy off what Nick said, piggy off the back of it, that we really seem to, obviously recovering the ball means we've lost the ball, but we seem to really have that tenacity about us in the second half. We were, fighting in the midfield, and it felt like we wanted to go on and win the game. Obviously, we did get the second goal. It felt like we were, trying to get more shots off. I think, if you compare the stats, I know it's not all about stats, but we had 3 shots in the first half and 6 in the second half. So it definitely felt like you said, Pellicer said, this game is there for the taking, and we shouldn't rest on our laurels. And I definitely think as the game went on, Malaga got a lot better, and it showed signs of, really promising signs. It's just, my only concerns, and I'm sure we'll come on to this, is the defence.
Yeah, perhaps we'll group the 2 Ferrol goals together shortly, but obviously we did go 2-1 up in the 79th minute. Antonito off the bench. I'm going to say he looked really confident when he came on, I thought. And not just because he scored a goal, but he had a sort of air about him. Yeah, he did swag. He looked really like, why wouldn't he? He scored one of the most important goals in the club's history, and he's 17. So I was really chuffed for him to score, obviously finishing last year the way he did and carrying on. I think actually, I don't think Aaron or La Rubia were awful, but they were a little bit anonymous as well. I thought Antonito came on and was really, I noticed him, and excluding the goal. Would you agree with that, Nick?
Yeah, him and Labetti for this goal as well. Both coming on at the same time, both having an instant impact within 2 minutes of being on the pitch. So, the one thing I took from Labetti's strike was that he, like I say, just come on and he decided to try and pop one in from 18 yards out. It's that kind of effort, which, again, we missed out on a lot last season. We were happy to pass the ball around or knock it back into midfield when we were getting into the opposition box. So for him to have that strike, it's not going to go on target, but then you've got little Antonito there to pop it in. Great to see from the young players. I was thinking about this in terms of how many young players we've got this season, and I think the average age on Saturday was 25. And I think that dropped massively when we brought these collection of players on.
I had 26, but I agree with you. I tried to work out
26.2.
Yeah, by the end of the game, it must have been much, much lower. Which,
closer to 22, something like that, maybe by the end of it. Maybe even lower.
Which obviously is what happened at Tarragona when we had that moment. Let's not.
Tears in the eyes again. Tears in the eyes again.
Alex, any thoughts on Antonito before we start wrapping up and talking about their goals?
No, I think, really impressed with, the areas that he got in. He was causing a lot of trouble for the defence. He was putting himself out there. Like you said, you noticed him on the pitch. And I think I like that from a player. I like to see him get involved. And, obviously his confidence, as you said, skyrocketed. And I think he's going to be a key player this season. I could even, obviously I don't wish ill on the performances of the likes of David Larrubia and Danny Lorenzo, but I can see him maybe even overtaking those two and becoming a starter.
Actually, no, obviously I want the best players to play. If it was up to me, obviously I guess we're going to do a preview show this week, so I don't want to jump the gun on that, but he should start against Mirandes for me. I would literally go with that, but maybe we've done this before where we've thrown him in and in the middle of last year, and then he sort of got a bit overwhelmed. So maybe this is the best way to manage him. I don't know. The Ferrol goals, we sort of joked a bit before we pressed record. They were very similar, and obviously the same goal scorer, Aneko Jauregui. Nick, anything you want to say on the goals? They were sloppy and,
Yeah, carbon copy. Basically, if you clicked Control P, I don't think what it is for Control Paste now. Mazanara knocked down to, just get his name up here again, Jauregui, however we're going to say it, but basically 2 goals of our own errors, whether it's Victor not getting the clearance away, whether it's, in the second goal, them not tracking him back from the free kick and allowing him to get that knocked down at the back post. We're going to get punished a lot more compared to last season. And that's the one thing I'll take from we're up against clinical footballers in the Spanish Segunda. And the gap is massive. So whereas last season, Herrero could have saved us a bit more often, or, Einar could have, been a bit more determined with grit, for example, or Monte. It isn't going to happen this year. We're going to have to fight for every goal that we concede. And just to say as well, Herrera I thought was fantastic again, and it's actually a shame that he conceded twice in this match because neither of them were his fault. And
also, just I realised I wasn't 100% sure this before the game. I'm just so happy he's captain. He should be I should have said this. He ran out onto the pitch for warm up before anyone else. The ovation he got was mad. He sort of, as he did, came over, just give us a cool wave, and then even just the wave got everyone went crazy. What a guy! And I thought he was brilliant. Actually, he did make those good saves again. I guess, guys, I think we've probably covered everything about the game. Is there anything either of you want to mention before we touch on Chumbo and Biznaga?
No, I think definitely positives to go off, things to work on. I think if we're gonna, obviously, the expectations this season, I think for me should be level-headed, stay up. That's the main aim. In the words of Claudio Ranieri, 40 points and
50 points out in this league.
Yeah, no, I was for effect. I was using the 40 points, but to get to that points mark, I think should be the aim. Just take it game by game. But I do think we will have to buck our ideas up against better opposition.
Yeah, I think that was Payas's message, wasn't it? There's lots of positives to take from this game, and there were errors, and we just work on them. I think it's a great result to start the season. We've obviously been quite negative about the sort of how La Rosaleda is going to work this season, but it is going to be a pretty much full stadium, and I think for as long as we went into that first home game with positivity, I think La Rosaleda is going to be wild on Saturday night. I'm no doubt about it. So, Jumbo and Biznaga, I'll throw my Jumbo out there straight away because I thought he was really, really bad. Victor Garcia, I just thought was awful. I just couldn't cross, couldn't defend. And I really like him. He's one of my favorite Malaga players, but in this game, I thought he was bad. So, Nick, who are you going with?
I'd have to agree. And again, it's not usual for him. I think just the fact he, led that goal, error to the first goal. Some of his passing was off kilter. Victor Garcia just seemed a bit off the pace in this match. But I've got no doubts that he'll come back stronger than this, especially with Dani Sanchez breathing down his neck as well.
Yeah. Actually, but again, not to skip too far into a preview show, I'd drop him for Dani Sanchez and see what Dani Sanchez can do next game. But anyway, we can talk about that in the preview show. Alex, anyone different for Jumbo?
For the sake of variety, and it's more just from a perspective of a player that I expect better from, is David Larrubia. I think, I'd like to see a lot more from him going forward. I know that he has the ability, but just really seemed quite lackluster and quite, inconsequential in the attacking third.
I'd agree. I'd probably say he would have been my second choice, actually. Again, not because he did anything bad, but I think you've used the right word there. He was just completely inconsequential, and we're relying on him to do things. So, yeah. To be honest with you, if it was the first half and 44 minutes, it probably would have been Kevin until he smashed that one in, because he was frustrating me a lot more than David Larrubia, but he did smash that one in. Biznaga, we've not really talked about him enough. I could not believe that people chose Kevin ahead of this guy. Juanpe, where the hell that performance came from, I do not know. He was unbelievable. He won absolutely every tackle. He got booked for winning this brilliant tackle. And as the game went on, he just started spraying these passes out wide. I think I saw in El Desmarque, they give him 8 out of 10. And I thought, oh, that's good. But then I was thinking, actually, he did everything that was expected of him. And what I didn't have on my bingo card for the first game of the season was the away end were chanting his name all the time, because he was brilliant. And I don't know if he just knows that Luismi's there and, might well take his place. But, you can't play that well and be dropped. I think Luismi's got to earn his place there. He was brilliant. What a way to start the season. I was gutted for him more than anyone that we didn't get the 3 points, because he worked his arse off. Some of the tackling was an incredible. Passing was good. I've not been his biggest fan, but absolutely superb this game. Honourable mentions, I think we've probably touched on Kevin for that 30 minutes. I thought was brilliant. I like the look of Pastor. Antonito was brilliant when he came on, but Juanpe was spectacular. So, Nick, anyone different?
I wanted to go with Manu Molina because I thought that he had a very solid game for this level. I think he's got some reservations about how he can perform at this level as well. I think he said earlier this week that he'd rather be playing in front of these thousands of people and potentially playing poorly than playing well in front of 600 people in the leagues below. So he's taking his chance. Okay. That being said, I thought both him and Juanpe were excellent together. But Juanpe, for me, would just shade it. And I think it is just that resurrection of him that probably gets this Biznaga from me. But I'd be excited next week to see whether Luismi can get back in there, Sengali can get back in there, because they looked formidable together.
Yeah, Manu Molina, just quickly on him, I thought he was a bit shaky at the start, which sort of links to what you said. I thought he really felt his way into the game and got much better as he went on, actually. They did look like a good duo, actually. Alex, anyone different?
No, I'm going to stick with Juanpe. I think my only issue with Manu Molina is I think he lost the ball quite a lot. I think it was 20.
At the start, I think, and then I think he really did sort of.
Yeah, no, I think obviously we've sung his praises, quite a lot over the last year or so. We've criticised them as well, but I think he's a solid player. I just think hopefully he can be a bit more clinical with his passes going forward. But yeah, Juanpe really busy. going forward and defensively. You know, he won the ball back a few times. He was, you know, making key tackles. He was going forward. He made key passes. There is a difference. I think sometimes players can be running around like a headless chicken and running around for a purpose. And he felt like he was running around for a purpose. He was in the right areas. He was, you know, he was causing problems for the Ferrol attack and, you know, defense as well. So I think, yeah, I'm really pleased to see Juanpe do well, because he was one of the players last season that perhaps, you know, didn't really have a run of games where he played that well, actually.
No, I can't really remember many games at all he played well. He was, you know, arguably we had really high expectations of him in that league, because obviously he'd been quite a sort of high-end player at Lugo, and yeah, just didn't happen. So yeah, I thought he was superb, like actually perfect, really. He didn't do anything wrong. The ref was the only one that did something wrong, like booking him for a good tackle. But so Juanpe, clean sweep for him there. And yeah, I think that's it for our review of the game against Racing Ferrol. So we have got a point on the board. Like I said, we're the only newly promoted team to get a point this weekend. So suppose that's a good thing. Is there anything we need to plug? I suppose I've plugged it already. Like there will be a sort of an accompanying Vamos episode to go with this episode. Anything else, Nick, we need to shout about?
I suppose the two things from my perspective, we will hopefully have a new Gibby Stories episode dropping in the near future, which keep your eyes peeled on the socials for that one appearing. And from me, congratulations to Kevin Medina on soon to becoming a father.
Yeah. No, not something. No, I thought you were going to congratulate Kevin Medina for his appearance on El Chiringuito, which I didn't quite get. But
no, I think I get that one. But yeah, to have a little Medina Nino knocking about, I know it's not what you wanted, Matt, but you know, you could have a purpose-built family now moving ahead.
Yeah, congratulations to Kevin there. And you know, it's always fun when players do the ball up the top celebration to unveil such news. So yeah, you know, I did prefer his Sun Heung-min sort of celebration, but understandable. Alex, I don't know, is anything you need to plug to your audience in Nigeria and Ghana?
No, just well, hopefully at some point, you know, I can't make any promises, but we've put the feeler out to the club about sometime down the line getting an interview with Sergio Castel. Obviously lived in Australia, so has some sort of level of English. Yeah, I guess on a sadder note, sending my good wishes to Dione after the passing of his father. Yeah, hope he's well. And yeah, just looking forward to Mirandes on Saturday, and hopefully we can pick up 3 points.
Yeah, and hopefully, like I'm sadly not very optimistic about it. Hopefully, lots of our listeners will be able to watch that game somehow, but it's still not looking good. But yeah, I will say. But you know, if you can't watch the game, we are going to be here recording podcasts, so you'll still be able to follow Malaga through our podcast and through our socials and YouTube videos and other stuff we're doing. So, you know, we'll try our best to keep on top of things for those people that can't watch the games, but hopefully in the coming weeks, you will be able to watch the games. There you go. Right, so I will say thank you, Nick Bell, and enjoy your last evening on the Costa del Sol.
Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you again soon.
And I will say thank you to Alex Ashmore, and I will see you tomorrow in Madrid.
Yes, see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. And vamos Malaga.
Vamos Malaga indeed. And thank you guys for listening. You know, share it out, as we always say on the socials, and tell your friends in the pub about the guys that talk about Malaga in English if they are interested in Malaga Club de Football. But for now, we'll see you soon. Adios and vamos Malaga.